Hello and welcome. You're on VITV channel with Into Vietnam Weekend, which provides you with the most comprehensive and in-depth views of Vietnam's economy in the past 7 days. Top stories of the week. The Consumer Price Index rises by 0.34% in November. The National Assembly passes the amended constitutions. And this week, Business Talk is joined by Mr. Niraj Sapru, the new CEO for Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos at the Standard Chartered Bank. He will assess on the bad debt resolution of the local banking system. Let's begin with this week's figures.
The General Statistics Office said the Vietnam Consumer Price Index or CPI is estimated to have accelerated by 0.34% on month in November, driven by prices of food and foodstuff. This month, CPI increased its lowest growth in recent 4 months, 0.49% in October, 1.06% in September, 0.83% in August. The November figure had extended the CPI to increase by 5.5% from December 2012 and by 5.78% from November 2012. As many as 9 out of the 11 baskets of goods contributed to the calculation of CPI data saw the prices increase this month, in which prices of food and foodstuff posted the highest increase, which saw 0.62%. Prices of housing and construction materials came second with 0.41% increase. Prices of garment, footwear, hat came third with 0.35% rise. Prices of beverage and tobacco was up 0.28%. Prices of household appliances and goods increased by 0.24%. Prices of culture, entertainment and tourism and prices of education both edged up 0.1%. Prices of medicine and healthcare inched up 0.07%, and prices of other goods and services were up 0.18%. In the downside, prices of traffic dropped by 0.34%, and prices of postal services and telecommunication inched down 0.02% in the month. Earlier, Ho Chi Minh City announced its November CPI rose by 0.17% on month, while Hanoi CPI increased by 0.26% on month.
According to the General Statistics Office, Vietnam's total retail sales and service revenues were estimated to have increased by 12.6% on year to 2,386 trillion Vietnam dong or $112.9 million in the first 11 months of 2013. The rise could be 5.6% if price hike is excluded. Of the sum, the trade sector contributed 76.8% of the country's total retail sales and service turnovers, with 1,832 trillion Vietnam dong, increasing 12.2% on year. Hotel restaurant sector accounted for 12.1% of the country's total retail sales and services, with 287.9 trillion Vietnam dong, rising 15.2% on year. Service sector accounted for 10.2%, with 243.4 trillion Vietnam dong, rising 13.4% on year. Tourism sector contributed 0.9% or 22.2 trillion Vietnam dong, up 1.8%. According to GSO, in the first 11 months this year, Vietnam's industrial production has increased 5.6% compared to the same period in 2012. In which production sectors that saw higher indexes are the processing industry, up 7.1%, electric production and distribution, up 8.6%, water supply and sewage processing, up 9.2%. The General Statistics Office said the industrial consumption index in the past 10 months increased by 10.4% compared to the same period last year. In particular, the manufacturing sectors which enjoy increasing consumption indexes are motor vehicles, leather and related products, rubber and plastic products, electrical equipment, textile, fabricated metal products, exclusive of machineries and equipment.
Coming Coming up next is major macroeconomic and investment news.
On November the 28th, the National Assembly passed the draft amendments to the 1992 Constitution. The historic adoption will provide a sustainable legal framework for Vietnam's continued integration and development. After 11 months of collecting feedback from legislators and the public, the draft has been perfected, reflecting the strong will of the entire nation. The amended constitution is divided into 11 chapters, with 120 articles, one chapter and 27 articles fewer than the previous version. Closely following resolutions at the numerous national party congresses and suggestions made by the party Central Committee and the Politburo, with a great deal of new content, the document clearly and fully manifests the democratic and progressive nature of the state and political regime of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam and stimulates political, economic, cultural, educational, technological and environmental regulations, as well as those on human rights, basic rights and obligations of citizens, national defense, the state apparatus, and the process for the Constitution's amendments. Speaking at the sitting, National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng, who is also chairman of the Committee for Drafting Amendments to the 1992 Constitution, said that the final legal document is the result of hard-working and enthusiastic discussions by all lawmakers, based on crucial input for all people from all walks of life. The draft is a manifestation of the public's aspirations for the nation and the current political harmony. The chairman admitted that the different viewpoints remain on some articles of the draft, but declared that the majority of people and the National Assembly have reached a high level of consensus on the document.
The Economist Group's Economist Intelligence Unit affirms the promising prospects for economic growth in Vietnam. It says after several years of achieving low economic growth, the Vietnamese economy has shown signs of recovery with increasing investment in the manufacturing sector. Although there remain shortcomings in terms of macroeconomic instability, Vietnam's competitive capacity has renewed optimism about its economic growth in 2014, thanks to a sharp rise in foreign direct investment and export turnover. The foreign investor sector in Vietnam has continued to generate jobs, with more FDI inflows in the electronics and assembly industry, helping Vietnam produce highly valued products. According to a new survey by Regus, which claims to be the world's biggest provider of flexible workspace, business confidence improved in Vietnam, while fast-growing economies focus on sustainable growth. The Business Confidence Index survey says that in Vietnam, business confidence has increased from 109 points in April to 118 points, just about the global average of 113 points. The report also indicated that Vietnamese businesses want to improve staff retention and find cost-effective services providers over the next 12 months in a bid to lower costs and preserve expansion plans. The gap in business confidence between mature and fast-growing economies fell as efficiency gains and improved competitiveness bolstered growth in emerging markets. Findings also show that firms prioritize cost-saving initiatives ranging from talent retention to flexible work conditions to improve gains on existing assets and enable fast and flexible expansions. The Ministry of Planning and Investment says 1,175 new projects were granted foreign investment licenses as of November the 20th, with total registered capital of nearly $13.8 billion, up 73.3% on year. Of the sum, 446 projects were allowed to increase their funds by more than $7 billion, rising 26.9% from the same period last year. Between January and November, Vietnam attracted an addition of $20.8 billion, 54.2% higher from 1 year ago. The ministry also reveals processing and manufacturing industries continue to attract the bulk of FDI, with 557 new projects worth more than $16 billion and accounting for 77.2% of the total foreign investment attraction. Regarding investors in Vietnam, Japan led with additional funds of nearly $5.7 billion, making up 27.3% of registered foreign capital in the country. The run-ups are Singapore and South Korea, which invested approximately $4.3 billion and $4.1 billion, or 20.6% and 19.8% respectively of the total sum.
Looking at the FDI extraction report this year, there were 20 newly licensed projects and 4 capital-added projects in the real estate sector, 10 projects higher than the same period last year. So after a long quiet period, the number of real estate projects is increasing gradually, despite the new capital of nearly $885 million, just half of the same period in 2012. According to Vietnam Capital, a long-term foreign investor in Vietnam, the real estate market has improved significantly since early 2013, owing to the government's determination and intervention. Besides the policy priority for social housing development, the exchange rates have been kept stable, interest rates reduced, and bad debts in the system gradually sold. It is expected these factors will improve significantly the market's credit for the rest of 2013 and in 2014. However, Vietnam Capital is concerned interest rates in the real estate sector remains high, with an average level of 13 to 15% a year. Banks' requirement of high collateral in the context of slow recovery of the market is also a challenge to those seeking new loans or refinancing.
Vietnam received 6.85 million foreign visitors in the first 11 months of 2013, up 10.2% from the same period last year. Of the sum, 4.2 million people came for tourism, entertainment, and relaxation, up 12.1% on year. Foreigners came by airlines reached 5.4 million people, up 7% on year. China topped the list of Vietnam's foreign tourists in the period, with 1.73 million people, up 34.1% on year. Korea ranked the second with 683,000 people, up 7.4%. Japan stayed the third with 554,000 people, up 5.5%. In October alone, the country welcomed around 738,000 foreign visitors, up 16% on month.
The General Statistics Office said the Vietnam state budget deficit is estimated at 145.5 trillion dong, or $6.88 billion in January the 1st, November the 15th this year, accounting for 89.8% of the whole year plan, or 162 trillion dong. The figure is narrowed, comparing with a month ago of 146.7 trillion dong trade deficit. In details, as of November the 15th, the state budget revenues reached 657.6 trillion dong, or $31.1 billion, or 80.6% of the whole year plan, in which domestic collection reached 432.6 trillion dong, 97 trillion dong from crude oil, and 123.1 trillion dong from import-export activities. Among the domestic collection, 130.7 trillion dong are collected from state-owned enterprises, 94.4 trillion dong generated from foreign direct investment businesses, collection from crude oil excluded, 92.2 trillion dong generated from non-state trade and service sector, 41.6 trillion dong is personal income taxes, 10 trillion dong of environment protection duties, and 8.3 trillion dong of other taxes, duty, and fees. Meanwhile, in the period, state budget expenditures were estimated at 803.1 trillion dong, or $38 billion, or 82.1% of the whole year plan. Of the sum, 146.2 trillion dong was spent for development investments, 567.4 trillion dong spent for socio-economic development investments, defense, security, and administration management of state and party, 89.5 trillion dong spent for aid and debt payments.
Foreign trade news, we continue the program.
According to the General Statistics Office, Vietnam export revenue was estimated at $12.3 billion in November, representing an increase of 18.9% compared to a year earlier. The 11-month figures show a year-on-year increase of 16.2%, with the foreign invested sector making $81.2 billion, up 23.5%, and the state-owned sector $39.9 billion, up 3.6%. The Ministry of Industry and Trade has fixed the yearly export turnover at $126.1 million, 10% higher than last year. With the rising export wealth in recent months, Vietnam is likely to surpass the target. Vietnam shipped abroad 212,000 tons of cashew nut in the first 10 months of this year for $1.34 billion, up 15.5% in volume and 8.5% in value, despite a sharp fall in price. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development said the US, China, and Netherlands remain Vietnam's largest markets, consuming 34%, 17%, and 10.2% of the country's exports, respectively. Facing many difficulties in the global cashew market, the export of Vietnamese cashew has continued to grow thanks to the sector's trade promotion efforts, especially in new markets in the Middle East and Northern Asia. According to the Vietnam Cashew Association, Vietnamese cashew has so far reached 100 markets around the world. The association said that cashew exports will improve in the final 2 months of this year, with signs of price rise and increasing demand, especially in the upcoming Christmas period and New Year.
The government has long been seeking to boost lending to agriculture and rural areas to improve farmers' living standards. The government's policies and efforts have resulted in significant rise in agri-credits. But at the same time, farming in Vietnam is facing a lot of challenges. Watch the following report for more insights. At the 7th working session, the 10th National Assembly presented the responsibilities and solutions for developing agriculture, rural areas, and farmers' life to raise the living standards. The Assembly underscored the role of credit to the sector. Year to date, although the total amount and quality of lending to agriculture and rural areas have been improved a great deal, they haven't met local farmers' needs.
Đầu tư chăn nuôi bây giờ nó không phải như đầu tư chăn nuôi ngày xưa mà bảo bây giờ là ta cứ làm ấy rồi chúng ta cũng có thể là làm được, mà bây giờ phải làm kiên cố, làm đàng hoàng, mà từ cái chỗ mà chúng ta làm một cái hiện đại để áp dụng được những khoa học kỹ thuật tiên tiến ấy thì đầu tư nó không khác gì trong công nghiệp.
Mức vay đối với nông nghiệp nông thôn thì đối với những hộ sản xuất nhỏ thì có thể là cũng tương đối là được. Thế nhưng mà theo tôi thì cũng nâng lên mức đầu tư cho vay từ 80 đến 100 triệu không phải thế chấp, để bà con nhân dân có thể có cái lượng vốn nó nhiều hơn một chút để đầu tư cho việc chăn nuôi sản xuất để phù hợp với một cái lao động. Ví dụ như mình đầu tư một cái lao động để mà tập trung vào sản xuất thì phải có lượng vốn nó tương đối đi phù hợp mới đủ cái việc làm cho một cái lao động để sản xuất cho cái nông nghiệp nông thôn.
Economic experts also cited the small volume of funds to agriculture and rural areas as a challenge to develop the sector. Besides, the lack of regulations and borrowers' awareness of insurance in the high-risk sector of agriculture has deterred banks from increasing the lending skills for agricultural workers.
Và quy mô vẫn chưa đáp ứng được với cái nhu cầu thực sự. Rõ ràng là một cái khu vực mà 70% người dân sinh sống và tạo ra một cái nguồn xuất khẩu rất là tốt, đặc biệt là xuất siêu là chính, thì lại nhận được lượng tín dụng cũng chưa phải là tương xứng. Cái thứ hai là còn nhiều những cái quy định về pháp lý đang còn hạn chế một cách nó rất là không cần thiết những cái hoạt động cho vay tín dụng ở lĩnh vực này.
Việc cho vay nông nghiệp nông thôn thực tế về mặt lý thuyết là rủi ro, vì cái nông nghiệp nông thôn rất nhiều vào điều kiện tự nhiên môi trường. Hơn nữa là ở Việt Nam thì cái hoạt động bảo hiểm cho nông nghiệp nông thôn là chưa thực sự phát triển. Như vậy là rủi ro với người đi vay là khá cao.
Despite the limitation, so far this year lending to agriculture and rural areas has recorded positive results, with lending quality getting better and interest rates being lowered.
Ngân hàng Trung ương đã định hướng rất tốt ngân thương mại trong vấn đề cho vay nông nghiệp nông thôn, và một số khu vực thì là cái tài chính dụng là rất là tốt, ví dụ như đồng bằng sông Cửu Long là 13,08% tính đến tháng 8 2013 đã 13,8%, và cái nợ xấu thì rất thấp, chỉ khoảng tầm 3,18%. Tức là đây là nó đảm bảo được cả vấn đề về tăng trưởng, vấn đề về chất lượng tín dụng, và rõ ràng là cái chỉ đạo như vậy thì rõ là cái luồng tín dụng nó đi vào thực chất hơn và đúng những cái ngành nó tạo ra cái gia tăng cho kinh tế, như là ngành nông nghiệp, như là các ngành ngư nghiệp, chứ không đi vào vốn ảo cho chứng khoán hay là bất động sản như trước đây nữa.
Nông nghiệp cũng là một trong những đối tượng mà được ngành ngân hàng ưu tiên về tất cả các lĩnh vực, các đối tượng cũng như là mức cho vay và về lãi suất. Nhất là trong 3 năm gần đây, khi hoàn cảnh kinh tế đất nước có những khó khăn thì Ngân hàng Nhà nước đã liên tiếp có những thông tư hướng dẫn về việc là ưu tiên trong lãi suất đối với khu vực nông nghiệp nông thôn, doanh nghiệp vừa và nhỏ, các đơn vị xuất khẩu và các đơn vị công nghiệp hỗ trợ. Hiện nay thì theo quy định của Ngân hàng Nhà nước Việt Nam thì lãi suất tối đa cho vay đối với khu vực nông nghiệp nông thôn chỉ ở mức là 9% năm.
In a nutshell, there are a lot to be done to boost lending to agriculture and rural areas, despite significant improvements in the past few years. The government and local banks are urged to introduce new solutions to boost lending to right target customers at the right time to upgrade farming activities in Vietnam. The Vietnam Asset Management Company, or VAMC, was established and began to buy non-performing loans of commercial banks in a bid to clear the debts of the banks. However, this is by no means an easy task in the context that the government and the State Bank of Vietnam have only made initial efforts. The VITV reporter had a talk with Mr. Nirak Sapru, the new CEO for Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos at the Standard Chartered Bank.
Firstly, congratulations for your time in Vietnam, and thank you very much for spending your time being with us today. The first question I want to ask you about, with over 25 years investment in commercial banking experiences in both Europe and Asia, so how do you assess the Vietnamese banking sector and its potentials?
Zong, thank you first of all for your kind words, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm really happy to be in Vietnam, and I hope that as I've traveled and worked in many countries, I can try and bring some of the best practices that I've learned from other markets and bring them to Vietnam. So, first of all, to answer your question on the general Vietnamese market, I'm very positive about the Vietnamese market. I think the long-term prospects of Vietnam are outstanding. As I say, the best is yet to come. So I think so from a banking sector point of view, I think there are a few challenges in the short term. I think some of the issues around the NPL, some of the issues around corporate governance in the banking sector need to be addressed. And I think those are beginning to be addressed, but a lot more work needs to be done in terms of getting the bad debt situation under control and behind us. I think the setup of the asset management company and the progress made so far is good. So I think a lot more to be done though. Good beginning.
What do you think about the process of dealing with the non-performing loans in Vietnam in recent years? And what are the differences in comparison with other countries?
So I think the Vietnam experience is that they've made a good start. I think setting up the asset management company is one step. Secondly, the banks themselves are looking at ways to restructure their own loans. I think it's critically important that we get the get the next steps right. I think getting the next steps right include the resolution of loans through the legal system. I think that's an extremely important part of the banking debt restructuring challenge. I think also that the recapitalization of the banks subsequently is also an area where I think maybe some foreign direct investment as well as some Vietnamese investment will help recapitalize the banks. So I think there are two approaches to resolution of banking challenges. I think in some of the other markets, both an asset management company to take over the bad loans and a recapitalization entity to put in equity were established. In the Vietnamese case, the focus is really on liquidity into the banks and the asset management company taking away the asset and then providing the liquidity back to the banks so that the banks can on-lend. Having said that, the banks still have a capital challenge. So I think there are differences and still lots of work to do in terms of resolving the banking sector problems.
In fact, Vietnam has accepted foreign investors to join its NPLs market. From your point of view, what mechanisms should Vietnam set up to allow the penetration of foreign investors?
So I think the fact that the asset management company and the resolution of the banking sector debt includes a foreign solution is a good step. I think it allows market forces to determine the resolution of the banking sector bad debt situation. I think before foreign investors will really seriously participate in the restructuring of the banking sector, I think there are some fundamental issues that need to be focused on. I think that the resolution of the debts through the legal system needs to be re-looked at. And I know policymakers are looking at it and figuring out mechanisms of allowing that to happen. But I do expect that over time, foreign direct investment will come into the NPL sector and will help restructure the banking industry.
Could you tell me your upcoming plans in developing your banking products as well as contributing to the development of Vietnamese banking and finance market?
So Zung, for us, we see a very long-term presence in Vietnam. We are building our business for the future. We believe that the SME sector in Vietnam will power the next level of growth in the Vietnam economy. We want to be strongly participating in the small and medium enterprises. As they become bigger companies, we want to grow with them. So that's one area of very important focus for us. We also believe that exporting companies will be successful going forward. We also want to participate with that, and especially with the fact that we have a very strong international network or a very strong trade finance bank. We believe we can support SMEs and exporters, improve their skills in trade finance, increase the use of IT and technology in the way they deal with banks. So that's one aspect of areas of focus for us. The second and equally important area of focus for us is around our online presence, online delivery of solutions to our clients, whether they be in the consumer bank, whether they be in the SME space, whether they be in the wholesale banking and the larger corporate space. So really two areas of focus. We want to participate in the growth of the Vietnamese economy in the long term.
Once again, thank you very much for joining our interview today.
And that's all for now. Thank you so much for your time with us. For comments and feedback, you can reach us by email at intovietnam@vitv.vn or give us a call at 04 222 08288. Goodbye for now.